Hello, students. Can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if you can hear my voice? So, students, today we are effectively focusing on the risk analysis and also, students, the strategic canvas because our thinking is very, very essential when you go to the examination. So, students, now, as I already discussed before, the SCS examination is purely on thinking aspect more than the technical aspect. That means in the examination, how you are able to think and clarify your point of view matters. So you have to make sure that you use your thinking ability as much as possible in order to do well in the examination. Okay, now students, the first thing that we are going to start doing is the strategy canvas because students, this is very, very important for the students in order to have an idea of how this works out as well. So strategy canvas, and I'll just write down the name of our organization, which is the SAEFWELL. Okay, so students, shall we start working on this? Of course, we can start working on this. It's not so complicated, students. It's very simple, very easier also. So let's start working on the strategy canvas step by step so that you will get the understanding on how it works out. So now, students, if you observe in the strategic level, you have to understand the business model properly. Because students, if you have worked in any organization, you will understand one thing at the end of the day, your knowledge should be embedded to the business organization at the end of the day because they are not testing your technical knowledge. They won't test A to Z on what you know. They will be testing whether how your thinking ability goes aligned with the business model of the business, what you are working for. So students, shall we start working? Yeah. Now, students, the first thing that we have to understand is the revenue streams. Because students, in any business, the revenue streams matters. Because how much your company is able to generate revenue matters at the end of the day. Now, if you observe in our case study students, it's very, very critical that our business is effectively having the following revenue streams. One is from intelligence-led security service, and the other one is from students' physical security services. So I'll write down the top priority first. So the top priority here is physical security services. Physical security services. And then students, the second top priority is intelligence-led security services. So can I write down here, students? Intelligence-led security services. Intelligence-led security services. So these are the main categories of services what we are effectively giving. But at the moment, students, it is 15% from this section and 85% from this. And as I told you in the examination, students, there is very high level scope for the intelligence-led businesses because students, now if you see cyber risk, so many things are happening. And can you remember, students, digital risk reporting, forensic accounting, all those things, what they are given in the pre-seen material is focusing on the intelligence-led services. And students, just to make sure your thinking is even better and clearer. So if you observe, students, these are reception. If you observe, students, is again physical. Site security, physical. Retail security, physical. Correctness, students. Now, if you observe risk advisory, intelligence, corporate investigation, penetration testing, and training. So these are the data what we have. So what I will do, I'll just subclassify this so that it will be very easier for you all also. One is reception, that is front office, correct? Then student site security, that is also very much important. And then students, the other point of view is retail security because that is effectively like mystery shopping. You be with the customers and you whistleblow. The technical term for that is whistleblowing. That means you be with the customers and then you whistleblow. Whistleblow is creating an awareness something wrong is happening. And then students coming into the aspect of the intelligence set, so that we have risk advisory. So I'll write down here, students, risk advisory services. So that is one factor to be considered, risk advisory services. And then students, we have the other one, that is corporate investigations. That is another one also that we are effectively providing, corporate investigations. Corporate investigations. And then students, we have the penetration testing and the training. So I'll write down here, students, penetration testing. So don't worry about this because these are the ideas you have to have and training. Now, students, if you observe in this case, there is something called efficiency. You could have given a training, but at the end of the day, there is no efficiency in this. So the measurement of efficiency can come in the examination as a point of view. So students, I believe that you are getting the clarity behind these major things. So these are the main revenue streams we have at the moment. So other than this, we don't have any other revenue stream at the moment. But if you observe the market conditions, students, let's just go to the market and see. Now in the market, they have security assessment, training, risk management, corporate investigation, remote service. Now remote service we don't have at the moment. So students, can I just write down here something called remote service? Can I write down with a different color pen so that it will be very clear for you? Remote services. Now students, if you observe, outsourcing can happen. Like students, BPOs can come into the picture. Correct? No, students, outsourcing. You can go for countries like India or some South Asian countries where you can do remote security. That means people are from a different region. They effectively go through that. That is also possible also. And then students, mobile guarding is also not there, students. So I told you mobile guarding. So I'll just write down here mobile guarding that is there in the Middle Eastern countries. If you are in the Middle Eastern countries, especially like Dubai, Qatar, everything, you will observe, right? Mobile guarding. Every time there will be a jeep traveling here and there. And also students, can you remember I told you about the drones? In the future, drones can come into the picture because we can give surveillance capabilities to the drones as well. So these are the aspects that is there at the moment. So can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you are clear with these revenue streams and the intelligence-led service? Because this is very, very important because now you are thinking as a senior manager. You're not a student. You can't go with the pattern thinking. Managers go with the pattern thinking. Here you are strategic-based thinker. So can I get a Y in the chat box, students, if you are getting the clarity in this, students? Can I please get a Y in the chat box if you are fine with this? Because this differentiation is very, very important. And understand it very well, students. There will be a transition in the examination. So can I write down here, students, exam focus, so that it will be very easier for you all. Exam focus. Now, if I am in the board exam focus, my point of view is transition to intelligence-led service. Transition to what, students? Intelligent-led service. Transition to intelligent-led services. Transition to intelligent-led services. I believe this is giving you a very, very clarity here because we can transition 15% revenue. Shareholders may demand us more and more income. So in that case, we have to slowly transition into another aspect. Now, students, the next thing is cost structures. Now, that is also one thing that as students, you have to keep in mind. Now, shall we work on the cost structures so that you will understand it very, very clearly? Now, students, one thing before we go into the cost structures, we have to know 174 countries we are operating. Students, understand it very well, 74 countries. So can I just make a note here, MNC, multinational company. So that is one thing, students. Later, you also know we are exposed to Forex, correct? No, students, Forex risk, we are exposed to that. You are aware about that. And then, students, another thing that you have to be very much careful is, this is another thing that is 460 securities. Can you remember that, students? 460 securities. And students, just remember one thing, paid above the market rate, because our salary package is paid above the market rate. That is one challenge because police officers, army commanders, or former army personnel are joining our company. So this will have a conflict of interest with the government also. Can I get a double Y in the chat box, students, if you are getting that perspective clearly? Can I quickly get a double Y in the chat box, students, if you are able to get that perspective? Excellent. Thank you very much, students. Now, students, if you observe, can you remember I told you in the previous class, if you have gone through the analysis, no inventory. Can you remember that, students? No inventory in this business. No inventory in this business. Can you all recall that, students? We don't have any inventory in this business. Just keep that in mind. No inventory in this business. Get that point of view very, very well. No inventory in this business. So I will write down here, students, mostly business model is based on humans and intellectual systems. Humans and intellectual system, and that intellectual systems we call it as internal control designs. Internal control designs, because this is little bit of intellectual businesses involved. So we don't have much cost above that. And then students, just to make it clear, there can be management fees. So can I write down here management fees? Because students, I told you this is a issue that we have to keep in mind with regards to corporate governance. Because students, if you observe here, you are mostly working with the shareholder. And students, can you remember the remuneration of the directors makes a very important factor to the shareholders, because we have something called, we call it as what agency theory? Principal agency theory, because we have a concept called principal and agency theory, because there is always a conflict between the principal, the owners and the managers. So that is one thing that you have to keep in mind. So 74 countries, we are operating 460,000 securities. Management fee is one more cost that is involved. And these are costs like license fees. Can I write down here license fees? This is very, very important because everyone can't start a security business. And then students, insurance, because these things are hidden. But insurance fee, why I am saying insurance fee is common sense. Because students, if you are going to start a 74 countries that you are operating, practically speaking, students, insurance fee will be a bigger cost for you. Correct, no, students? License fee, insurance fee. And then students, I'll be very transparent. The other important cost is training of staffs. Training of staffs, because training of staffs is very, very, very important. And especially security training is very, very, very important. So students, these are the costs. And then we have overheads. I'll just write down here overheads. And some example of overheads can be like building. Can I write down here? Building is a form of what, students? Building is an overhead. Building is what, students? An overhead. Correct, no, students? Now these are the overhead costs which we are effectively facing. So can I get a Y in the chat box, students, if you are clear with this cost structure and the revenue stream, so that you will understand it very well. And students, if you observe one success here is very, very transparent is our GP margin. Can you remember, students, our OP margin? OP margin is how many percent? I believe you can recall it. Our OP margin is effectively coming somewhere around how much, students? 16%, right? The recently it's 16%. And then students, another thing that you have to keep in mind, our ROC, the return on capital employed, is somewhere around 53.64%. So students understand it very, very well that this industry is very much intellectual oriented, like a college, university, consultancy business, because everything is intellectual based, and something wrong happens, it will be a huge issue for everyone, students. So can I get a double Y in the chat box, students, if you are clear with these revenue streams and the cost structure? And also, students, these traveling costs, all these things are like miscellaneous expenses. We can keep that in mind. Now, the next thing is, students, we have to go on to the next one as customer segments. Customer segments. Now here, students, we don't have a customer segments, but one thing, it is business to business. Now what we have to do with students, we can segment our customer base based on nature of business. Nature of business. Example, students, a restaurant. A restaurant has a different security need. Correct, no, students? Restaurant is a different security need. Bank is a different security need. Hospital is a security need. School is a separate security need. You need to adjust according to the sectors. Can I quickly get a Y in the chat box? Because this is one important thing. If you have gone through the previous recordings, you would have understood one thing, students. In this sector, your employees must get adjusted to the business, because it is very, very important. Your client profile will always change, and your security should always go with that. And then, students, after nature of business, size of business. So can I write down here size of the business? Size of the business. Example, students, we don't have any idea. We can use security service for small, medium entities, large scale entities, or listed companies. Anything we can give effectively. So I'll just write down here, students, these are the point of view that we can focus on. And also, students, state businesses, state-owned businesses also, we can effectively give the security services. Can I get a confirmation there, students? Now, these are the customer segmentation. And then students, if you see geographical, now again, students, we have 74 countries, but there is no geographical segments, no students. The geographical segments also is one more factor that we can keep in mind in our customer segmentation. Because students, if we are giving the same product to everyone, at the end of the day, students, you will have a confusion whether the market, are you targeting the right people at the right time? So I believe this is giving you even a better clarity. Then students, after customer segments, we have something called the revenue streams. The revenue streams. In other words, the channel. So I can write down here, students, the revenue channels, the channels. From where are we getting the customer? I can say at the moment it is referrals, and also students, strong business establishments, strong business what students establishments. Are you understanding that? It's referrals and strong business establishment, because the word of mouth and the strong business establishment may be one more factor to be considered here, students. But other than that, we are not aware about how we are getting anything. Students, in our case study, do we have anything related to marketing? For instance, students will just observe our board of directors. Just see our board of directors now. If you see, Beijing is their business development for security client. Now, business development, okay, and he's also managing human resources for physical staff, business development for intelligence. Now, my question here, business development is different from marketing. Now, students, do we have anything with regards to sales and marketing? Can I get a Y in the chat box, students? Do we have anything with regards to the sales and marketing? Because students, it's B2B. I completely agree with you. But students, at the end of the day, the business needs to grow. If the business needs to grow, do you need to have a proper sales and marketing, students? Can I get a Y in the chat box, students, if you understood that point of view of sales and marketing? Because we have to expand, right, students? Because business development and marketing, there's a huge variation, getting that point. And then students, customer activity, or I can say client activity, customer activities. Now, in this case, students, I'll just write down here client activities also. Now, in this case, my question to the classroom is, what are the value addition? Do we have any relationship marketing? Do we have any relationship marketing with our clients? For instance, are we taking feedbacks? Do we have any information with regards to feedback? Students, do you get that point? Relationship marketing, feedbacks. Do we have anything like that, students? And the other thing, students, additional services required. Additional services required. Do we go through that? And after feedbacks, we can also say complaints. Can there be anything like customer complaints also? Correct, no, students? Because these things are very essential and important things. And then students, recognition. Students, do we need to have recognitions also? Can you remember, students, for instance, if you observe this security guard, I believe you have seen this security guard. Now, it's not from our business, no, students. It's not from our business. Now, a bank security guard only they have mentioned. Now, students, is this a recognition? Definitely, because the more recognition you get, there is high level chances your business can become more and more successful. Can I quickly get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you're understanding these areas? Now, these are the gray color areas, students. Can I just put it in a gray color so that you will understand these are the areas that you have to think. These are the areas you have to think, because considering the market, there needs to be a growth. Correct, no, students? And if there is no growth in the sector of sales and marketing, we will have a bigger challenge considering the shareholders' expectation as well. Wonderful. Now, students, coming to the next one, that is our cost. Now, this is the analysis of the revenue. This gray color section is the analysis of the revenue. Now, the biggest challenge with us is we are making revenue, but the biggest problem is, are we multiplying that revenue? That is the biggest problem we have. We are making revenue without a strong multiplication of that. And now here, students, key partners we generally say, how are we partnered with? So I have to say here security personnels, because this is very important, security personnels. And then students, retired security generals. Because students, do we need to have retired security generals? But do we have any retired security general in our board of directors? Can I get a confirmation? Do we have any retired security members in our board of directors, students? I don't think. Because if you observe in a security sector, you need to have someone as a non-executive director, as a retired security general, right? Just keep that in mind, students, because that is very, very important, very, very essential also. Now, students, the next one. So security personnel, retired security general, and the other one, students, very openly speaking, after that I can effectively say regulatory bodies, because students, it is not easy, right? Because you have to have a very strong relationship with the regulatory bodies. That is very important. And then students, security personnel, retired security general, regulatory bodies. And then there can be another one, that is the key partners, I can say, clients and their support, because clients are also in this partnership only. Because if you observe, students, now in teaching industry, although students are customers, in reality students are our partners. We are working together, right, students? We are working together. You may be customer in a general perspective, but in real life you are a partner, because you are working together. So clients and their support also is a key partner. And then one thing, do we have a research and development? Students, my question to you is, do we have R&D in our business? Can we just check and see, do we have R&D in our business? Just check and see, students. Because these are the questions that you have to ask yourself. Students, do we have R&D? Research and development, yes or no? Can I get the answer in the chat box? Do we have a research and development, yes or no? Can you just type it in the chat box as a confirmation, students? Do we have a research and development in our company? Anyone, students? Anyone? Just as a confirmation, because as per my understanding, I think it's no. If you have found it, you can say yes. If you have found it, I think. Thank you, Raj. The answer is no, right? Students, my question to you: considering the intelligence-led services, do we need to have R&D? Considering the new technology that is emerging in our market, so that is a big weakness. So can I write down here, research and development is another area that we have to focus on. So can I get a double Y in the chat box, students, that you can feel it, that our key partnership is having some weaknesses. Anytime anything can happen. Suppose if someone comes with a better technology, an information system, like a data-led system, we will have a bigger challenge in the strategic aspect. And after key partner, students, we have to focus on key resources, because resources is important. Now, one resources is, students, human security. So I'll write down here human security is one resources, and I'll write down here 460,000, and I can say here skilled. Now, my question here is, do we have a certification? Students, do you have a certification for these people? That is a question. They have a training, but what about certifications for these professionals? Students, can I quickly get a confirmation from you all in the chat box if you are clear that certification is not there? Did anyone see a certification? Example, students, now you are doing accounting, you're doing CIMA, just to make sure you have a certification, right? An assurance, right? To show it to the market. Yes, I have gone through a formal, rigorous process of doing examination under 3 hours condition, and I am able to satisfy this through a compliance plus also my working exposure. So students, do you have anything with regards to certification for these professionals? Can I get a Y in the chat box if you are sure there is nothing given with regards to certification? Can there be an issue in the examination? Can there be a potential race coming? Because students, can you remember, we can't use weapons. When there is an issue, we can't use weapons. We don't have power. So what is the assurance that our employees don't use weapon? Did they attend any certification training where they have done some theory plus also some application and some simulations? Can I get a Y in the chat box, students? Because these are the potential issues also that can come in the examination. But can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, with regards to the human resources issue here? Wonderful. Then the other one, students, I'll write down here client network, because we are not aware, but client network can be key resources at the moment. And then students, key activities, I'll just write down here key activities. Now, the key activities in this case is intelligence-led services, and that we have already given in the revenue stream. And also students, physical, I can say physical security services, physical security services, physical security services. Now, these are the two main factors to be considered at the moment. And then students, I'll write down here value proposition, because value proposition is the differentiation factor. So I can write down here the establishment of our organization. Now, if you observe students, our organization, they started in 1920, I assume, right? I think we started our security business in 1920. For instance, just a minute, I just want to get the quick confirmation. Yeah, we was founded in 1920. So I'll write down here, founded in 1920, founded in 1920. Till date, there is no specific issues with regards to security constraints, now since 1920 till now, if there is no issues with security constraint, that clearly shows that our business is doing very, very well at the moment. So students, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you are clear with this? If you are clear with this, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students? Any questions, any doubts you like to ask, you can ask me, students. But if you're fine with that, can I quickly get a Y in the chat box, students? So this is the strategy canvas that we have effectively made. But you have to understand growth is essential for any businesses, correct, no, students? Because growth is very much important. Without growth, it will be a stagnated business. And coming to the human resources, it is also a bigger challenge for us. So students, can I get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you are clear with this strategy canvas, what we have designed at the moment? Can I get a Y in the chat box, students? Can I get a Y in the chat box? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, students, if you're fine with this, now let's do the corporate governance issues. So I'll just say the corporate governance challenges. That means these are pre-scene analysis, students. Now, corporate governance challenges, students, I just want to come to that. So I'll prepare a table, but before that, I just want to go with overall. One overall corporate governance issue, very transparently speaking, is lack of research and development. Lack of research and what, students? Development in the board. Correct, no, students? And then absence of a retired security personnel. I'm not saying an army commando or anyone, but a person who has a lot of experience in this sector. And then students, sales and marketing is very poor, and it is on business development. Because students, you have to capture the market, retain the market, and then make sure the market is upsold also. So that is very, very clear at the moment. Now, students, coming into our board of director analysis, let's just have an idea. Now, the first person, that is Dr. Pratima Takali. So students, I'll just design it and we'll just do an analysis of these people, because stakeholder management is important. Dr. Pratima Takali. So I'll write down here Dr. Pratima Takali. Anyway, you will get the spelling correctly. Now, let's observe it properly. Doctorate in finance. And she is the non-executive chairman. So I'll write down here non-executive chair. Okay, the chairman. She is successful in the banking, including period as chief in commercial bank. She retired from banking, joining Capital City College, visiting professor for banking and finance. Pratima joined in 2022. So I'll write down here 2022 appointment. But banking sector expertise. Now the question here is nomination committee. This comes to the nomination committee. Correct, no, students? Who nominated her? Now my question to you, a chairman of an organization, especially in a security based, I think, do you need to have a banking sector experience, or make sure that you have more towards security industry experience? Because banking sector experience is fine, internal control, everything. But the issue is, students, that's not only what we need, right? We need to be even better. And I told you one thing, students, your customer segments, that is the nature of business, will be a challenge for us. The next person, Greg Haing, CEO. So I'll write down here, Greg Haing, CEO. Let's do a quick analysis of this person. Qualified accountant, trained as an auditor with large accountancy firm, rising to the position of the managing partner in Bharat. Greg left the firm to join SAEFWELL and as a CFO. Now, I'll write down here, CFO to CEO, audit and finance experience. Now, this is just a wild guess, but it may not come in the exam. He can help us in forensic accounting. Can you remember, students, there is a demand for forensic accounting. Can you remember that? Can I get a Y in the chat box, students, now? Again, this guy can help us on forensic accounting because the demand for forensic accounting is slowly going up. So that is one thing. And then Beijing, physical security services. Now let's observe Beijing. Bai has a master's degree in human resource. She has worked as a human resource manager in several large companies. Okay. She joined CFL as a senior manager with specific responsibility to physical security staff. And Bai was promoted to CFL's board of directors in 2022. So now almost 4 years. So I'll write down here Beijing. A little bit security, physical security recruitment. Physical security recruitment. Now, I just need to very transparent here. High risk profile, high risk job, high risk job. Because students, can you remember if something goes wrong, this person Baijin's recruitment will be accountable. So I believe that is very clear for you all at the moment. This will be an issue for Baijin. Then the next person is Murat Aydin, Director of Intelligence-led Security. Murat has a degree in computer science, spent his early career working in systems in major bank. He has also served as a computer audit specialist with major accountancy firm. Murat joined SAEFWELL in 2016 as a consultant, and Murat was promoted intelligence-led in 2021. So I'll write down here Murat. He can help us with cyber risk, correct? Cyber risk specialization, I can say. And then students, everyone is banking. So indirectly, students, can I get a confirmation that our organization's main target audience can be bank? Can I just make sure that our main target audience is not only this bank will be our major target audience? Because maybe, just a skeptical thinking, students, maybe most of our clients are banking clients. Sabine Ansel, Chief Financial Officer. Sabine has a degree in economics and a qualified accountant. She has worked for several manufacturing companies before returning to Berlin and joined as a senior finance manager. So I'll write down here, Sabine, manufacturing experience. So what she can guide us is internal controls. So she can help us on internal controls, especially like penetration testing, all she can guide us. And then John, Director of Legal Risk and Business Ethics. Definitely business ethics question is sure. So I'll write down here John, Law and Business Ethics. So in case if there is a legal litigation, John is important. Then students, Professor Martin Anderson, Senior Independent Director. Martin teaching in researching international business before being promoted as assistant principal, Technical University, retired from academia in 2000. So this person has been retired, but a little bit of, I can say this person has teaching and researching in international business. So Professor Martin, international business. Professor Martin, international business. So I'll write down here international business because we are in 74 countries. So he can guide us effectively with regards to the international risk exposure we have. Then Nil Fall. Okay, Nils Fall. Now, Nils was a senior actuary in insurance company, assistant director. So I'll write down here Nils Insurance. So I'll write down another person, Nils Insurance expertise. Then the next person, that is Magdalena. Magdalena has worked for procurement for car manufacturing. She has held specific role including operation, manufacturing, supply chain. So she has also served in a charity also. So Magdalena. CSR. We can use her for CSR. Charity experience is there, but too much of car manufacturing. Now, students, now if you observe, the biggest challenge for us is most of the people in this case has more experience with regards to banking sector. Because I told you students, 85% of our revenue comes from physical site security. So considering that, do we have any issues there? That is one thing that you have to keep in mind. So students, can I quickly get a confirmation from you all in the chat box, students, if you are clear with this? Because stakeholder management is very, 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 very important. And why we need these people is also important. No need to memorize this, but just remember, if you can cite it out in the exam day, it will be a bigger differentiation compared to the majority of the students who are writing the answers in the exam. Now, the next one I'm going to go is risk analysis. Now, the risk analysis students, I'm not going to spend infinity time on this because we already know this risk. These risks are already there in the risk report. Now, I told you students, this you can go through. Now, skill labor shortage, they have given the mitigation also. Health and safety mitigation. All these things they are given. Now, students, the biggest risk we have, I'll be very transparent to you. So I just was thinking, one is known as employee malfeasance risk. Employee malfeasance risk. That means, students, employees malpractices. In other words, students, fraud, then negligence, correct, no, students? Fraud, negligence, apathy. That means students lazy to work in this, correct, no, students? Fraud, negligence. I'll write down here, this can be a major challenge, can be a major challenge. Now, students, an example I can say is phishing. Students, you may be aware this concept called phishing, where you can get informations using a false email. Correct, no, students? You can use a false email and get the information of these people. Can I get a Y in the chat box, students, if you get this point of view of phishing here? Because that is very, very important in case we don't change. Because students understand it very well, there can be a situation of poor employee. And then students, another factor that we have to consider now students, this is a red flag, I can say. Biggest problem with students is for everything they write what risk? Reputation risk. For everything they write business risk. Whatever that is there, they write it. So I'll write down here red flag. I'll write down here red flag. Don't just write it. Don't just write common factors. Don't just write common factors. Focus mainly on the information aspect as well. So this is one thing. The employee malfeasance is very, very important factor that we have to consider at the moment, students. And students, another thing, just to make your life even clearer and easier, that is one specifically to this industry. And the other one, students, just to make sure compliance risk. Now that they have not given at the moment. Now, students, we don't have anything with regards to compliance risk. Example, did we follow the standards of a local regulation? Standards of a local regulation. Because students, if you observe, 75 countries or 74 countries we are working. So 74 countries may have many different local regulation. Example, students, in certain countries, sometimes the security officer may have the power to use some minimalistic kinds of weapons, right? So this is one risk analysis that we have to keep in mind and very transparently writing it down so that it will be easier for you. In the exam day, your mind needs to be empty. Now, students, check our WhatsApp group profile picture. That is the Bruce Lee. I told you, go to the exams like Bruce Lee. No strategy, no idea, nothing. Focus on the situation Adjust your mind according to that. Focus on the situation only. Now, I think now this gives you overall clarity of what we are doing, what we are learning at the moment. So just to give you a even better picture of what we are learning, what we are studying. Now, these are the main thing. Now, if you see SAFEWELL, everything is going well, but there can be a transition. 100% sure we can go to a transition. Corporate governance issues for sure. And then students, if you see risk and analysis. Now, another challenge students, if you observe in this case, let's be very transparent to you. Now, look at these cases. We have these remuneration, nomination, everything. But the biggest challenge for us is, are we upgrading our status? Because we are not doing any upgrades at the moment, students. So can I get a double Y in the chat box, students, if you are getting the clarity behind this upgrade, students? Can I get a double Y in the chat box, students, if you're okay with this management accounting understanding? Because again, remember, you are not an industry specialist here. You are a finance manager only, but still you need to be aware about solving problems in the exam day in your perspective. It should be like you are giving a solution and practically solution. So students, overall done. So we are done with the entire analysis of this case. So on Wednesday, we will have the drafting class. I'll teach you how to draft answers. And then students, on the coming week onwards, we will start doing the question practice and technical revision. I'll cover up the technical areas in a brief manner, because students here, they are not wanting the students to remember concept. The students should be aware about the business more than the concept, and the student should simulate the situation and give a proper response to the examiner. Okay, now students, let's come to the one-to-one discussion. Dixita, any questions you have for the day? Mr. Ebzel, any questions for the day? Mr. Rahul, any questions for the day? Mr. Raj, any questions for the day? Ms. Taksila, any questions for the day? Mr. Usman, any questions for the day? Thank you. So students, thank you very much. So please be focused, go through all these things, keep your mind free. On Wednesday, let's do the drafting class for the questions, and it will be easy and slowly it will become challenging. Thank you, students. Take care, students. Good night, everyone.